Good morning, good afternoon, and good day. This is Kenneth McGinnis, the founder of Weapons Management. Today we will be talking about the barrier of relationships. Weapons is a focus on economic empowerment, and in the portion of economic empowerment, there's a lot of principles that actually deal with how we handle relationships. Relationships are very important when it comes to dealing with finances, dealing with people, and all those things. Everything, believe it or not, ties together. There are only, and this is just my belief, but and feel free to send me a message or disagree. I don't know everything, but there's only two principles and mental ways of dealing with relationships. There is the abundant philosophy and the scarcity. There's only two at work and even in our personal life. When we deal with people, we either see people from the abundance or the scarcity, meaning they're going to take things away from us because of them, or they're going to add to. So the question is, where are you lying in that form of relationship? Do you have abundance mentality or scarcity mentality? And that is actually usually created through the soul. Uh, our soul, when we're born, God give us all souls, and we're born and we are raised, and we're kind of programmed from our childhood onto our adulthood. Everybody grows up differently. Everybody doesn't grow in the same type of environment, but what's ingested into us will dictate how we view our world around us. So, what does our soul consist of? Our soul consists of our will, our mind, and our emotions. There are people from different backgrounds where the will and their mind and their emotions are dictated or set off by different triggers. Everyone has different triggers, and our triggers affect how we respond. Whether we go on, we look at money and we change our views on, well, I'm gonna go just splurge, or I deserve it, or no, I don't deserve to buy anything because I don't, I don't, I need to save more because something might be an emergency. It affects us in many ways. But our soul, our will, our mind, and our soul ultimately affects our decision, our thinking, and our feelings. That actually determines how we deal with each other, how we deal with interactions, how we deal with disappointment, and how we deal with excitement. Some people think after they, let's say you won the Super Bowl, you won a championship game. How would you want to celebrate? Do you want to celebrate by rest and relaxation, or do you want to splurge and go out and do a big event? Now, celebration is very critical to our mindset because it gives that fulfillment of achievement. But everyone has a different way of looking at what I achieve and accomplish. And this is why money is tied into all these things, because it does affect how we utilize the resources that is provided to us by the way we feel. So let's talk about some scriptures here. And let's talk about Luke 16:11 and Matthew 6:19 through 21. So Luke 16:11 says, therefore, if you have not been faithful in the use of worldly wealth, who will entrust you with true riches? That is pretty much saying, how can I trust that if I'm asking you to be a steward over the minute things, the 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 daily salary that you make. Everybody has a set salary, and some people always want a little bit more than that salary. Some people always want somebody to maybe provide them or give them a gift. But if you are not entrusted with the salary that you have now to properly store it, to properly manage it, to properly save it, to properly invest it, to buy things that are valuable for your family versus buying the next new gadget, then how can he trust you with other things? Because sometimes with more wealth, everybody knows, with growth comes more responsibility. Well, we cannot be entrusted with more if we can't handle the few things that we do have. So realize that wherever you're in life, you have to be faithful and diligent and disciplined with what you have in order for you to be trusted with more. And let's look at Matthew 6:19. Do not store up for yourself treasure on earth, where moth and vermin destroy, or where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourself treasure in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. To stay on a ground and not to get too spiritual with this scripture here, look at this from the angle of when you are dealing with your resources, when you are dealing with the things you're given, the gifts you're given, the time you're given, how are you investing the time? Are you investing the time just to get the next promotion? Or are you investing the time to truly help that person, to truly help grow that person? Are you investing the time to, I know people look at family. Let's just use family, for example. Sometimes when we help family, we just help family because we want them to be there for us. Think about it. If we want just them, you want to give it to them because you what you don't want to happen is when it comes when it's your time of need, you don't want them to be there for you. You're doing it for the wrong reason. A lot of times I have said no to family members due to the fact that I know it's not about that. And sometimes I said no due to the fact that I need them to understand something because all I'm doing is crippling them. But you have to look at it from the heavenly perspective of when you do something for them, will it have a long-term effect? Will it grow them? Will it bless them? Now, if it will bless them tremendously and they will ultimately change their life, then yes, you want to lay your treasure with them to help and increase the kingdom. But if it's just a momentarily thing, you might want to think about it. Everybody has different views on this stuff. Like I said, I don't know everything. This is just my perspective and from my experience of things I've had. But ultimately, we have to look at how we relate to each other. Like I said, our soul determines how we deal with our riches. It determines how we deal with our treasures, our gifts. It determines all those things because it affects what we are looking for, whether it's because of the scarcity mindset or the abundance mindset. Do we feel like it's enough to go around for the whole world? If you do, that's great. Well, give and share. Bless others. And bless it not with expectations of a reward because that's kind of the earthly. But if you're blessing because you know ultimately this is going to pass on to the next person, that's a different way of laying your treasure onto someone else or blessing someone else. So if we have a scarcity mindset, let's use this, just focus on the scarcity mindset. And most people do, believe it or not. I'm guilty of having a scarcity mindset because when you're like, sometimes when people say, oh, I love competition. Well, competition is good, but what are you competing with? Are you comparing yourself to the next person? That's scarcity mindset. You're not supposed to compare yourself to the next person. You're supposed to be comparing yourself to yourself. So how do you get out of that scarcity mindset? How do you get out of that mindset that, hey, look, there's enough for us to go around. I have my role, you have your role. We can rise together. We can become experts in our chosen field or in our gift. Your gift will contribute to my gift. How do we change our mindset? And the thing is, the funny part is sometimes to change that, it is painful. The pain of change is real because a lot of times we have been set in our ways for so long that it is hard to say I'm wrong. That is the pain of change, to admit that you don't got it together. And a lot of times my favorite quote is, I go to church because I have issues, not because I got it together. I go to church because I know I got to go to change and it's painful and I need scripture sometimes to show me and help me change my mindset, grow and remove the toxic thoughts that's been placed in my mind through media, through upbringing, or through bad experiences that I had when I was a child. So how do you do that? Well, 9 times out of 10, like I mentioned in church, we're counseling. You might want to find somebody that's actually doing something in a different way. You might want to find somebody that's not in your denomination or your culture. Because sometimes, believe it or not, some people have different views. Doesn't mean that you need to gravitate towards what they believe in, but you do need to look at it from their perspective because everything is a form of perspective. Some people believe that being an independent entrepreneur is the best thing since sliced bread. Yes, it is a good thing. But some people believe that I just thank God I have a job. And if you got a job, talk to counselors and talk to people and get counseling from people that are successful in that job. But if you want to be in a business, talk to people that are very, very successful in a business and take those nuggets and those pieces that you know that will help you succeed. But in church, we have religious leaders that are actually responsible for teaching the scripture, teaching what it is like to go through obstacles, teaching us how to overcome the negativity that has been embedded into our mind. And if you say you never been through negative, you're not negative. I'm sorry, but I think you're lying, because everyone has some form of negativity, and everyone has some negativity that they need to get out of us. Everyone has biases. I am guilty of it too. And my goal is every time I look at it, I analyze. And I am very analytical because I am an engineer. However, I am analytical because I do know that it's not always the way I see it initially. It's always something behind the story. And there's always ways to looking at it, because I don't believe that people are intentionally doing things to negatively affect me. I think there's something, I also understand that some people do it because they have negativity in them. But why and where did it come from and how to pull it out? But religious leaders are the ones that teach us how to do that. Religious leaders are supposed to be giving us the scriptures, giving us the word. Example, the Bible is filled with a lot of negativity, but also the Bible is also filled with a lot of triumph, a lot of people overcoming and breaking through those barriers and obstacles in our relationships in different cultures. Why is it that why was it that the Israelites were put in Babylon? To not only learn their own issues, but to learn about another culture. Now, today, in this technology era, we have tons of media, tons of social media that can provide us information on just people experience. We got TED Talks. It's the list is endless on ways to learn how to change. The pain of change is very real, like I mentioned. And the thing is, even I know I am growing day by day. Each day I have to grow. Each day I'm revisiting something that I experienced in the past that puts me back to where I used to be. And the reason why I'm even talking about this is because guess what? I wasn't quite the most positive slash outgoing, glad to talk to you, leading by example, trying to motivate people, because I didn't think I had the right to do that, because who am I? But then I had to change that mindset. I had to realize that I have something to contribute and bring to the world, and I'm doing at my best through this weapons company. So go to YouTube, listen to motivational speeches. I challenge you to do one a day. If you do one a day, I guarantee you it will give you it will get you over the hump, and the pain of change won't be as hard to go through that process. Because guess what? We want to change. Why? Because we want to connect with people. We want to get to know people. We want to learn how to deal with our resources, because how we feel affects what we do. Going back to the soul slide. So, what negative effects do we have on what negative effects are on relationships? Well, let's say it like this. The thing is, we all go through issues. We all got issues. Like I mentioned earlier, I go to church because I got issues. And I remember my grandfather. I got notes on here saying my grandfather's story. Everyone has issues, has them. I met a girl many years ago. I thought she was a great catch. She's very beautiful. However, she just has some issues that I just didn't understand. And I told my grandfather, I said, Granddad, this girl's beautiful, this and that, but she just got some serious issues, and I don't get it. And he told me, let me know when you find one that doesn't. The fact is, and then that was exactly what he said. The fact is, you're not going to find anybody without issues. You just have to find someone with the issues you can deal with. And that's the thing that we all deal with. And that's the thing we deal with when we come. And I'm not even talking about race, but I'm gonna use race. Sometimes blacks and whites and Asians and whatever background, Arabic, whatever you are, a lot of times you don't interact with the other culture because you know that your issue might manifest and their issue might manifest, and you don't want to deal with those issues. But deep down, you got issues too. So who are you to judge? Think deep down, that person on the other side of that wall or that barrier that you might have some nuggets that can teach you some things and show you how to enrich your life and how to move on in life. Because believe it or not, being connected is the best way to deal with things in life. And if you're not willing to connect, that sometimes you're missing out on a lot of things. And guess what? Some people, both sides of the house on any barrier that you may have, they're gonna probably move on in life and do great things. But imagine if you did it together. It'd be interesting. So with me saying that, the issues I'm talking about right now is kind of rejection. People we all get rejected. We all quick to reject things because we are, like I said, afraid of issues. So we will reject that individual. We will not interact. We will not be open with that person because guess what? We're afraid of rejection, and guess what? So are they. 9 times out of 10, on both angles, everybody's afraid of rejection. And here's I say right here: the car, somebody might not like your car, but guess what? It's going to get you to point A to point B. The car don't care. The car is there to do what it's supposed to do. And we're here to do what we're supposed to do. So whether somebody reject you, don't care. But if you learn how not to care whether they reject you or not, you will actually do great things. That's why a lot of people in business talk about, dealing with rejection, because rejection is one of those things where it's imaginary, but it emotionally hinders people from communicating. It hinders people from talking or reaching out. But the thing is, if you learn how to realize well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Why should I care? You might can do a lot more things. You will be very successful in the business world because business is all about rejection. You get over it, you'll excel. And then the last one is culture. And I kind of mentioned it earlier when I talked about, blacks, whites, Asians, Arabics. You got everybody has different ethnic and culture views and culture values, and it's also affect our soul. And those cultures affect how we respond. We respond to different things differently. And when it comes to money, every culture, believe it or not, I've dealt with, people from Japan and people from the Middle East. And when it comes to money, they deal with money differently. It is amazing how different we are. And my bias is that I love how the Japanese deal with money. If you want to categorize me on how I look at money, I'm more like a Japanese. I'm very Japanese when it comes to money. And sometimes I used to be called very Jewish when it comes to money because of how I deal with money. But my values are different than my own culture. And a lot of times I go back to my own people and the way we respond due to our culture, the way we respond, how we respond to money and finances is totally different than how I do now. But guess why that changed? Because of what I've learned, because of development, because of me being willing to change, going through the pain of change allowed me to get over my own culture barriers when it comes to responding to money. So why is this the case? A lot of times our behavior, our culture, as I mentioned, is the reason why we have this issues, because the industry actually want us to have these barriers. Believe it or not, they actually want us to have these hiccups and respond different in responses and stuff like that. And then when it comes to that, what happens is we have a job and we don't never have enough income. We trying to get ahead. We're trying to do it by ourselves. So guess what we do? We just go get more debt. We don't learn how to collaborate, because a lot of times people collaborate and they trust each other. They probably don't even need a debt. They probably just talk to a friend and they go into partnership with each other. But 9 out of 10, people people are very, don't get me wrong, people are very irresponsible sometimes. You'll run into, especially family members, friends, if they're irresponsible, yeah, you do not get in partnership with them. And if you need to get something done, you got to get a loan. It is what it is. But a lot of times where we have barriers when it comes to resources is our behavior, not enough income, and too much debt. And how do we get over this? Is our solution is that we actually look past the issues, the rejections in the culture, and we learn that we can get financial education from anybody. It doesn't matter what they look like. If they're competent and if they got fruit on the table, that's what you need to look at. Do they have fruit? If somebody's gonna educate you, don't go to the gym and get training to get a six-pack with somebody that don't have six-pack abs. Don't have financial education from somebody that's broke. Just saying. You got to look at it that way. And then you got to have, not only the education, but the coaching and the mentoring. Do you feel like this person can mentor you and teach you, relate to you, help you, teach you, help you learn? And of course, a lot of times and this is actually in my first segment right before this one, is have a financial plan. If you go back to my first session about planning, you want to have a plan. And then once you have a plan, you definitely, your issues and your rejection and your negative effect on how you relate to money will not be there. Now, we're talking about two different things, money and people, but both are in the same, believe it or not. So when we talk about people, what is the issue when we talk about people? People think that, oh yeah, I gotta love this person. They love athletes. Oh, I love you, and they, the athletes or the entertainers say, I love you too. And they always say that because they're not going to tell you, they're not going to not just ignore you, because that's going to sound bad. It's going to look wrong. But deep down, it ain't about love. You don't love that artist. You don't love that athlete. You just love what they brought to the table. They entertained you. Now, the thing is, you got to learn how to remove expectations. Because when you got expectations, you got disappointment. Kobe Bryant, for example, that passed away, you didn't have any expectations of the guy at all. But then he performed. And guess what? You fell in love with the guy because he performed. So you got used to what he brought to the table. But if you like put that on him in the beginning and he didn't perform, that love would have went away. You'd be like, okay, he cool. But he converted and showed you that he had things to bring to the table. So basically, the knowledge, the information, and what he did care about, what Kobe, for example, cared about, is what really made you like the guy. He cared about performing. So the information that he provided us, the constant performance that he provided us was information, and we saw from what he cared about is what we loved. So a quality relationship is based on that you're very familiar on what information you're going to get from this individual, or what they really care about, and you knew what this individual cared about. Just like if you was in a relationship with someone else that you're working with, you want to know what they care about. What do they really care about, so that you can have a quality relationship. If you don't know what they care about, you're really not going to get to have a quality relationship. You're not going to get to know them, and you're not going to get help. Understanding, comprehensive. How do they care? How do someone care for you? Five love languages show usually, like, the five love languages: quality time, words of affirmation. A lot of times people tell you how they care about what they do to you, and that's a fact. Like my mother-in-law, she pretty much she gives us stuff, and I'm learned to love it, because it's like, oh, that's what she cares about. I know how she cares. So when she's giving us gifts, she's sharing her love with us. And we have to reciprocate that to her, that we love her too by giving her gifts. It's not because, oh yeah, we just doing it because she don't know. It's just that's the way she cares. She loves. That's the way she show her love. So you need to know how people comprehend love and comprehend quality relationship, and what they do to show that. Because, for instance, a lot of people, like, even though we love it from my mother-in-law, that's different. But there are some people that are friends of ours that like gives us gifts, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. But that's not how we care. We actually care through quality time, a lot of times, through words of affirmation, through communication. And if we don't have that, then you pretty much missed the point. You never understood. You don't know who it is. We're not gonna have a quality relationship, because you're just throwing things at us and you don't know us. My mother-in-law, she knows it. That's my mother-in-law. But for a friend, if you don't know me like that, don't throw me gifts. That's not gonna work, because that's not how I care. I care a different way. And that's the way you have to look at it. So everybody's received care different. My wife, she cares different. I can buy her flowers, and I can buy her the best diamond ring, and she will not care if I don't spend quality time with her. And then, how do you work together? Now, this is a dual thing right here. It's not just a relationship with people, but also a relationship on how you work with somebody when it comes to finance. And this is funny how I'm tying this together, because the thing is, when it comes to money, relationship and money is very well tied together. So how you work together is a big deal. Here's why. If you are fighting over who does what, for example, in a house, I'm gonna use a good example. We are doing dishes. Somebody needs to clean the kitchen, and I think it's your responsibility, and you think it's my responsibility. You have to learn a way of saying, okay, let's divide and conquer and work together. Let's not focus on me trying to be, oh, well, I supposed to be doing this, and no, but you both fight, or we both fighting over trying to accomplish to do the same thing. Like I mentioned before, the scarcity and abundance mindset. Sometimes people think they're supposed to work on the same thing. Well, what is your strength and what is my strength? Well, I don't have a problem like this. This does bother me, and then for you, that bothers you. So what? Yeah, my wife might always decide to be the one to take my Yumi to school all the time. That's sometimes what she wants to do, because she wants to allow me to take care of other things that she doesn't want to take care of. So eventually we start realizing there are roles that I have. So basically working together is identifying roles and responsibilities. roles and responsibilities is not just a job thing, it's a personal thing when it comes to finance. If you look and talk to a financial person, what is their role and responsibility? What is it that you want them to do? And what is it that you know that you can take care of yourself? That connection, that application will develop a really good quality relationship and connection, because now expectations will go away and you will already understand that this is what they're good at and this is what they're not good at, and this is what I can help them with, and this is where I will come in. But yet they're really good at this, so this is where they're going to help me out. And now you see what resources they provide. What value do someone provide to you? All this thing is all about value. Knowledge, understanding, and application provides you a value on what that relationship has for you. Because if you know this stuff, you know whether it's a good relationship, a positive relationship, or a negative relationship. And a lot of times you do not want to be in a negative relationship, because what is that going to do? It's going to bring you down. And what is that going to do? It's going to continue the manifestation of what? A scarcity mindset. So you want to understand what a quality relationship looks like. So what is the common ground that we all share? Um, we all have one thing in common, because right now a lot of times people are like, well, I have more free time. This other person has less free time. This person has more money. So of course he's going to be the money. Well, at the end of the day, we all share one quality that doesn't change, and that is this: that we all have the same amount of time. That common quality of or assets we all share is time. 24 hours a day, whether you're wealthy or not. That's all you got. The question is, how do you use that time? And the other thing is the need for connection. We all want it and we all need it. We all want to be connected to somebody, whether it's a dozen of people or whether it's just two people that you just focus on, just two people that you like, all right, that's all I'm gonna connect with. But we need it, because if you don't have those two people, then you're gonna find somebody. But we need the connection, and that doesn't change. I don't care what your status is. You will need connection, and you will have only 24 hours to develop that connection in that time, utilizing whatever talents, resources that you have to connect to people. So let's talk about know thyself. Now, I've done this in many courses and many programs and with many companies. And the reason why I bring this up is because this does determine how you relate to people, how you relate to money, how you relate in general. You and we all, and including myself, and I like this one because it did help me learn that, oh, there is a group of people, there are a mindset that I bring to the table. But what is that mindset? Because when I deal with people, like I was talking about working together in love, if I know what I bring to the table, I will walk in the room knowing that this is what I can contribute, and I can almost pick up and say, okay, this is what this person is. Oh, I need this person because he's gonna pay attention to details. You need to know your weaknesses so that you understand the people that where your weaknesses are. There are other people that have the strength, and you want to get to know that person and not look at that person as, well, you're different than who I am, so you don't have we don't have anything to talk about. That is called the scarcity mindset, and that is very, very negative. So know thyself. Whether you're a formal or a fact-finding person, whether you're a person that's just really informal and you just want to get the thing started, that's me. Or whether you're dominant or an implementer, or you actually just flow with things and let it grow. Some people are really good at just letting it flow. So why is these are important? Because it does determine your personality, and it does determine how you enter an environment, and it does determine that some people might get repulsed by that person that's dominant and a very formal. They're like, man, this person's uptight. But at the end of the day, you need that person. Don't judge him. So that person is considered a controller. The person that's fact finding, that flows with things, they're usually analytical, and we need those kind of people. I love those kind of people. Now, promoter, informal, implementer, yeah, that's me actually. I'm very much into the promoter form of life because I like to get things done, but it doesn't have to be perfect. That's how I am. And the more I get things done, and I just be glad to get people, let's bring it together and let's do this thing. That's me. But I need my supporters. I need my people that also like to just get things done, but they just flow with it. Me, I want to, like, all right, how are we gonna do it? So you need to know thyself and how each one of these matrix, the analytical people, I need those guys. The controller, a lot of times, those are guys that do run me wrong, but guess what? I need them in the room. So if I don't learn how to get along and realize that they bring something to the party and they have their role in life, I'm gonna miss out every time, and I'm gonna keep going through life trying to figure out why I ain't doing things right, Why don't people deal, why I'm not getting along with people, when deep down you just got to realize that, guess what, it's okay to differ than you. You just need to learn how to look at their strengths and then realize what you contribute and find the gap that you feel as the personality you are. Here's a quick breakdown of qualities on what each one of these guys bring to the table as a promoter, as a supporter, a controller, or analyzer. They all, some people are very subjective, objective. They are very, critical, but yet some people they bring some energy to party, creativity when we all need it. They know how to motivate. Some people don't, like, I ain't trying to motivate anybody. I'm just trying to get here and get the stuff done. Some people can sit there and break it down in a second with no form of instructions as your analyzers. We all need each other. So relationships in business and relationships in life is critical, and actually relationships when it comes to money. Because when we talk about relationships, guess what gets us the job and don't get us the job? It's how that employer see us. They can see and pick apart and say, oh, this person will bring this to the table. They're not hiring if they feel like they can't relate to you, or they probably won't hire you. They'll hire people based off of sometimes these qualities. Now, now that I explained all these qualities, let's get back to now we talked about personality and relationship. Let's talk about the money again. Here's the thing. Everything I just said earlier, you either going to go into something with knowledge or no knowledge. And the thing is, the goal is to understand finances from the point of having as much knowledge as possible. The less knowledge you have, the more likely you're not going to get ahead. And if you don't have knowledge and you think that you know somebody that does, you want to understand where you connect, how you connect, and develop a relationship, have a coach, have someone that can mentor you that is doing very well. We all find them, but you'd be surprised that some people, they will find somebody just because they look like them. And they're like, okay, you know stuff. And deep down, I'm not I'm gonna say I'm not judging, but more of I've ran across people where they'll give advice just because everybody has an advice. You can get advice from anybody, but you ever challenge that person based off advice, or you just go to that person just because you think they know something, and they probably know just as much knowledge you are. They probably be that person that's a saver and take no risk, or probably a person that just borrows everything they do and just continually grow that debt and in denial. So you kind of want to make sure you have someone that can help you. And there's many cases where I understand, and I totally understand why, people let other people take care and do it for them, because, they got, life is a struggle by itself. So having that passive investor is the standard. That's actually where most people stop. We all get into life. We all get our job. We all even have a business, and we just turn it over to people. Even NBA people, they turn it over to agents and they let someone else run their investments for them. And they hope that one day that person has their best interest, and they wake up one day and all their money and their millions are taken care of. But it's not always the case. And when it being not the case, it's the reason why you should learn how to break past that and become an automatic investor, an active investor, or a capitalist. Here's why. Because the more you do, the more you learn. The more you do on your own, the more you can make wiser decisions. The more you understand your circumstances, because your circumstances is different than anyone else's. Your advisor can tell you all they want, that they understand your circumstances because they understand your numbers. I love numbers, and I do work with numbers. And when I see some of my numbers, I understand it. But my goal is to make sure that you understand that your numbers can do this or that. Because I need you to become an automatic investor, because I need you to make a decision whether this or that makes sense. Not because I want to put you in a vehicle. That's not the way I do things. I want you to make sure that you understand what you're doing and why and what makes sense. What are your options? What can you do? What is another option when you come down? Because that is true suitability and fiduciary, making sure that the person and every person that you're relating to, that you relate to them first and understand what they're trying to achieve. And by understanding what they're trying to achieve, you can provide them options in a world of understanding on what is there available for them to do and execute. Because if they don't know what their options are, more likely what happens is we stay and we continue with no knowledge, and we stay at the level 0. So financial levels has a lot to do on how much are you willing to relate to money. How much are you willing to learn from others? The more you do, as you work with people, you work with the people that are actually automatic investors and active investors, or maybe capitalists. You got to find that party. You got to find out who those people are, and then work with them. So everything I just said, talking about money and talking about relationships, I'm not an expert, but these are things I've tested and I've tried and I've encountered with dealing with people. I get amazed on how like sometimes I deal with people when it comes to so even just sitting down and talking to them. I'm amazed that, you know, people don't even have accountability anymore. They don't believe that that they're required to reciprocate. Like if somebody say, "Hey, give me a call," you know, people are so busy they don't keep calendars, and it's hard. I get it. You know, we one thing comes in mind and it's gone the next minute because of what's in front of you. That's a normal life actually. However, when it comes to this world, you got to try to be a little professional, a little. But here's the thing that I do know is that positivity go a long way. We all have to be positive, and we all have to look at things from a positive perspective. And if we're trying to do things in life, it only is going to move forward in a positive way unless you're positive. And by the way, consistency is a killer. How consistent are you with that? That's routine, that's habits. Are you consistently in the gym? Are you consistently trying your best to figure out new solutions? Are you consistent? Are you consistently reading? Are you consistently sitting down watching TV? Are you consistently sitting on the couch? Are you consistently drinking every day? So in a positive way, in creating a connective environment, are you consistently meeting or talking to an individual? Is it positive? And then of course, is it a vulnerable environment? Vulnerability doesn't mean that you put all your stuff on the table, but can you trust the person? Can you be honest with that person? Do you have that understanding that if you're slightly vulnerable with that individual or with them, that they can when you talk to them, are you feel like you're going to be exposed? When I talk about people, when I talk about budgeting and doing financial plans with people, I always tell them like it's not about any exposure, and it's amazing how many people are so sensitive. They talk. We tell them to give you information, and they're not willing to do it. Why? Because they don't want you to judge them. What are we to judge? We're doing numbers. Numbers is numbers. No one has perfect situation. Everybody numbers are different based on your circumstances. The goal in the world of finance is to take your numbers and try to help you improve those numbers. That's the only objective. If people are worried about people judging them, then that's something that's called the scarcity mindset. Just saying. Because our attitude, our time, and the trust that we have dictates everything. It dictates how close you are with the individual that you're dealing with. It dictates how well you deal when it comes to talking about even your resources. If you don't have the time, a positive attitude about it, and trust, you will continually go through a fearless cycle of scarcity mindset and negativity. But if you want to create a positive environment, connect yourself with someone that you can trust, that you can have a positive attitude with, and that are considered consistent. When you have that, you will develop a bond, and the 9 times out of 10, especially if that person is a positive person, you will ultimately help each other grow in life because you would challenge that person to be even more consistent, even more positive, and even more helpful. And ultimately, you realize that as much as they help you, you're helping them. We all help each other because what's that natural need? That natural consistent thing. We all got a limited amount of time, and we all got that need for connection. Connection is real when it's positive, consistent, and it's vulnerable. So finally, the reality check. This is probably my longest YouTube video, but I have to give you a reality check. And the reason why we talked about relationship, I didn't give my disclaimer in the beginning because I didn't talk about money at all in a way of how you invest on anything. But I did want to make sure I explain this because this is important when it comes to dealing with people because money, you can't deal with money without dealing with people. That is why it is taboo. And the thing is, a lot of times people money situations enslave them into like I went through the levels. A lot of times people are in denial or they have no knowledge, and they are so afraid of doing that. They're so afraid of identifying, guess what? I just don't know. I'm enslaved because of lack of knowledge. So how do you get you out? Well, we educate you. We show you the way. People are out there trying to show people the way, and it's amazing how many people that don't want it because, or they're afraid that they're gonna get ripped off. And I totally understand it. And everybody should be. You should be cautious. That's why you sit down and you should have the courage and the strength to sit there and challenge the individual. Challenge them on what they know and what they're going to do. You don't just go in and be like and get raped and go vulnerable. You be vulnerable eventually, but you don't go in vulnerable. You go in with caution. That is true. I understand it. Don't trust any and everybody. But I'm saying that once you find that individual, or once if you're not willing to sit down with that person to give them a chance, then you are really hurting yourself. Because long after the Israelites left Egypt, they still were not free. A lot of times people get all this information and they still fail to implement things, and they don't get themselves free. They don't get themselves to the point, and they have it all at their hands. That's the funny thing. So social media can give you all this stuff, but a lot of times it still requires, what does it require? Real connection with people. If you think that you're gonna be a social media champion because you watched a couple of YouTube videos and this and that, and then you're gonna figure it out, whenever it comes down to implement anything, guess what? You're gonna have to go right back and connect with people. You're gonna have to learn how to trust them. You're gonna have to give them opportunity. I've given many people opportunities. This is why I'm able to do a lot of things I'm doing, because I had to give them opportunity and be honest and be open with them and be vulnerable and realize that, hey, look, all right, I'm gonna give you a chance and trust you. Now, don't get me wrong. If you feel like that trust or that credibility that they presented to you is not legit, yes, walk away. Walk away. So realize that, freedom is truly, you got to understand where you are and what you need to do and what the freedom really look like. Like Harriet Tubman was free, and she knows she could have freed 1,000 more slaves, more only if they knew they were actually slaves. In many cases, most people think they're fine. They don't think they need the additional relationship. They don't think they need the connection. They don't think they need the understanding or knowledge on how to manage the resources, because they actually think they're okay right now. And everybody, even myself, even I know I'm not all okay. I still got a lot of things to learn, and I'm trying to learn it. So here's how I can actually explain the best way to sit there and think about this after you done watch this video. If you are told you have 5 years to live, what would you do and how would you change things? How would you change the way you view things? Would you act with a little bit more urgency? Would you, that phone call, that business idea that you thought that you might have came up with, would you act on it? If you will act on it, then that's when you know you are pushing forward and you're making changes that's necessary. Thank you for listening. This was a long one, but it's valuable, and I hope this educates someone on how to deal with money and people in a better way, so when you're trying to improve and move on in life, that you make a decision with understanding the need for each other and connection, and how to subject from a positive, negative, a scarcity mindset, and an abundant mindset. I pray that every one of you guys have an abundant mindset, and you continually encounter with positive people that are going to uplift you, cheer you on, because they're going in the same direction, just with a different lane. Thank you very much.